Yeah, I can keep your defense boosted by 15.
That's actually incredibly useful for me because I have no defense. Oh.
Oftentimes, items fly under the radar if they aren't some machine gun level DPS. However, oftentimes we can see the inverse, an item which could be mostly impractical be hyped up to be something far better than it's actually worth due to people just simply looking at the theoretical practicality of the item. We've seen this in recent times with items such as the Cursed Spire spell, also known as the O spell, but more notably the Brutal Buckler. Both pretty solid items, but not nearly as fantastic as players make them out to be because they both have their uses, but the cases of these items are incredibly limited. I've always been a believer that just because an item can have a field day on a staggered Oryx 3 does not mean that a piece of equipment has a comfortable spot within what I would consider the S tier of item choices, which is where I'd put things such as the tier 7 Firmament Scepter, the Gladiator Guard, and the Chrysalis of Eternity. Those would be items I would consider to have little to no drawbacks at all. When I think of equipment such as the Primal Arcana, it's genuinely difficult to think of a single thing that's wrong with this item that could be disliked by players aside from the slight issue that it has latency, but I would like to hear your guys' opinions on which items you'd consider to have literally zero drawbacks, or if you completely disagree with mine, let's talk about it. Before we get into this video, literally only one of you are subscribed to my channel, and these videos take quite a lot of time, research, writing, and editing, so if you would please be so kind. For the topic of this video, I would like to talk to you about the Cogbolt Cower Shield and why you should not be sleeping on this item. I did also recruit James to help me collect some clips. As my knight is on Crucible, I am not able to show the actual full power of this item, and if anybody knows how to play knight, it's him. It has pretty much every single thing an item wants. It holds the properties of a DPS carry, tank, and support all in one. And if you're not a complete DPS goblin and your soul is not bound to the one riskiest piece of equipment known to man, you are going to like this thing. To obtain this wonderful piece of gear, you will need to venture off into the Cogbolt Steamworks. Though this dungeon has plenty of different ways to obtain white bags through, minions and the mini-boss, the shield drops from the Cogbolt deity, Ferris. And let me say, you will either have an incredibly easy time trying to obtain this item or the worst time ever. There is no in between. As, unfortunately, most Exaltation dungeons have like 600 whites nowadays, so unless you roll a blueprint, I wish you the best of luck. In terms of the actual Knight modernization update, there actually is not much information on Reddit. However, when I typed in damage reduction, I did stumble across this one post from 2 months ago talking about the connection between the Jug and the Jug. So when the Knight, I'll say lightly, rework update happened, the main key detail was the damage reduction bonus effect on ability cast. Most shields were granted a 25% damage reduction, but most UT shields didn't receive any sort of damage reduction, such as Spiteful Scutum, SQ, and surprisingly the Shield of Ogma, which is very shocking actually. So what actually makes this item so meta-defining? So for starters, the shield actually does more raw damage than most other shields in the game, dealing 325 to 400 damage per hit of the shield bash as its base. Sounds pretty unimpressive right now, but the shield has some incredibly brutal defense scaling. The item does an extra 8.5 damage for every point of defense you have above 20, and with the Knight having the highest base defense of every class in the game with a total of 40, you can start outputting some pretty heavy damage with even the most basic gear. But that's not all. A moment ago, I was talking about how UT shields didn't get the memo on the reduced damage from all sources. Oh, but the Cower Shield did, and boy did it. This huge hunk of metal offers you an extra 5% damage reduction from all sources, and for those who missed that part of the update, I'll explain why damage reduction is so busted. Not only does this cover your regular 180 damage shots from the Archmage, it also covers armor piercing shots and environmental damage such as lava and the lean spillage in the shadows. Did I say it right? Lean floor, yeah. You want to hear something really funny about the whole Knight modernization and the introduction of damage reduction is that before it was taken out, whether temporary or not, this effect was also given to the Marble Seal, but due to factors unbeknownst to mankind, the item was granting 85% damage reduction and allowing war crimes like this to take place. Similarly, the Cogbolt Cower Shield had issues like this too. On the first day of release, this item was given a 70% damage reduction rather than 30%, which mathematically I'm going to assume was just an oversight or an error with the numbers. Hearing that the two major class modernizations had pretty major issues, one of them having to be half reverted on day 4. Oh, it's fucking comical, I wouldn't change it for the world. This shield also grants 5 speed and vitality on equip. Oh, and the projectiles themselves also ignore armor. The Cogbolt Cower Shield actually synergizes with itself. On use, the shield grants you and everyone around you a defense bonus of 15, which with a decent pet you are able to keep up with a 100% uptime. So when you're actually battling with this item, you're running in with the damage of a 71 defense Cower Shield, but it's actually actually 86, which means if we run the numbers, you'll be doing an extra 637.5 per cast, which if we add other enemy debuffs such as Curse and Expose, your damage numbers will be astronomical. Oh, and I didn't mention, if you thought this level of tankiness would allow you to survive the collision of two Boeing 797s, if you're in critical condition, the defense boost is up to 20 for everyone. If you get below half health, your entire group gets the same defense boost you give yourself. Now that is absolutely value, an amazing way to support your ADHD riddled friend who you've told 14 times to stop using Vesture and dying to fractals. Now there comes a point in Realm where defense becomes not negligible, but less effective as the game has a 90% damage reduction cap from the stat. And trust me, I'm no mathematician, but I'll explain it in a way that makes the most sense. If a projectile hits you for 55 damage and you have 55 defense, you will still take 5 damage from that projectile because of the 90% reduction cap, because 55 minus 49.5, which is 90% of 55, equals 5.5. And with the way that Realm's damage calculations work, it will round down to 5. The Cower shield works fantastically in a group setting and whilst playing solo. Of course, the item does have a couple of drawbacks. It does not grant any defense on equip, however, it does make up for it for the insane passive effect where you're able to increase your defense. The damage reduction comes in incredibly handy when defeating bosses such as the Twilight Archmage and the many instances where you're just getting pelted by shots from God knows where. Another drawback is that the item actually requires you to be at quite close range to hit all of the projectiles. A lot of melee players, especially those in the later stages of the game, enjoy using the Divinity Sword from Oryx 3. I may be wrong, but from my testing, it is absolutely impossible to land both the Divinity main shot, the AoE, and all 5 shield hits from the Cower shield, or any shield for that matter, which is why it synergizes so well with the escutcheon. So if I was to recommend any swords to use with this set, I would settle down for the Demon Blade, or the Sword of the Colossus. In terms of flails, I would try to get your hands on the Damnation, dropping from the deep depths of the Spectral Penitentiary. Whilst this weapon is quite risky with its negative 50 vit of full health, the damage is absolutely nothing to be laughed at. If you aren't quite at the stage where you can be doing dungeons such as Oryx 3, Shadows, and Spec Pen, I offer you another version of this set if you're just looking for a bit of fun with the shield. That would be with the Ancient Stone Sword / Atavistic Soul Saber, and maybe the Demon Blade with a candy-coated armor / tiered armor and whatever defense granting accessory that you like, whether it be an enchanted defense ring, adventurous scarf, or hell, maybe even a bloodshed ring from the cult. However, if you are at the point where you can consistently get your hands on endgame equipment, my personal set recommendation would be the previously talked about weapons, a Gladiator Guard or tier 14, and my personal accessory recommendation, which would be the Twilight Gemstone, as the shield has quite a beefy mana cost of 120, which is taken down to a sweet 84 by the innate effect of the gem. However, you play exactly how you want. In terms of optimizing the damage of this item, I wouldn't take it too seriously because above all, you just want to stay healthy and, you know, not explode. Have fun with it. Let me know what you come up with. Obviously, the builds I've suggested are probably not the most optimal because, you know, myself and melee characters are like oil and water. Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you do find great success with this item, be sure to let me know in the comments or message me in game.